Here we go. It's the making sure I'm actually live thing. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I think we're good to go. Move my light out of the way. Okay, so welcome back to another Facebook Live yoga class. It's been a while, so I took last week off, so this feels a little bit strange. Yeah, so last week I took off. It was a nice little half holiday, but we're back. And today we're going to be having a little look at Lotus. So Lotus is Padmasana. And really, it is one of the postures that you're going to see all the time in yoga. Like if you Google yoga, you're probably going to get loads of pictures of people in headstands, handstands, and Lotus. It's the posture where you cross one foot over the thigh and then you pick the other foot up and you loop it across. You will have seen it. So even if Lotus, you know, it's not ringing any bells, I feel like most people know what it is. There's an emoji of it. It's everywhere. But while Lotus is everywhere, it is a very, 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 very complex posture. And I'm going to say this straight off the bat, it might not be for you. Okay? So Lotus is I've heard it described as a high risk, low reward posture. And I can't say I disagree with that. There is a lot that can go wrong. If the hips are tight, then the effort of the posture comes into the knees. So the knees are one thing that you really have to be mindful of when you're practicing Lotus. And yeah, it's the hips really. Lotus is an incredibly deep external rotation of the hips. If the hips are tight, you're not going to be ready for Lotus. We're going to go through all of this. I haven't spoken for a while, so it's just going to come out all at once. So knees. Be careful of your knees in Lotus. It depends a lot on your hips. So if you've got tight hips, you probably won't be able to do Lotus straight away. We need to work on opening up into the hips. But why I also say Lotus may not be for you is because it has a lot to do with the structure of your pelvis and your femur. We can't change that. There's nothing we can do about that. If the pelvis and the femur are structured in a certain way, it's going to either make Lotus easier or harder for you. It's the length of the neck of your femur. It's the depth of your hip socket. You're born with that. You're born with that anatomy. So don't be upset if Lotus is never going to be a part of your practice. If Lotus always feels uncomfortable for you, it's not a big deal. Just find something else to do, and I'm going to explore some modifications and stuff you can do. It's not the be all and end all. That being said, it's important that we have a look at this posture. Traditionally we practice all these yoga postures so we can sit comfortably to meditate in eventually Lotus. That's the goal, but it's not really the goal. That was the goal back in the olden days, but it's not really the goal now. Symbolically though, Lotus is lovely. I don't know if you know, but Lotus is a beautiful flower that blooms from like murky swamps. If you've ever seen a Lotus flower, they're lovely. And symbolically it's important because we use it to sort of represent what we can do with the mind in yoga. You know, we rise above the problems, the issues we have, the difficulties, and we try and find a place above that all where we can have beauty, where we can have peace, and we can have that kind of like deep sense of contentment rather than happiness. So yeah, it's a lovely bit of symbolism. You can tell I've not spoken to the camera for a while. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to talk through it as we move on, but predominantly just be careful of your knees as you move through this. Any knee injuries, I don't want you to try Lotus today. You shouldn't. If you've got any issues, consult a doctor before doing this. Always check with any form of movement if you've got major concerns. And we're going to be working into the hips a lot to begin with. All right, let's start. So you might want a yoga strap just for the first posture, and then we'll take it from there. If the hips are tight, just keep that strap handy. If the hips are tight, actually, you may want a pillow or a block as well, because we're going to do a couple of seated postures. Let's start on our back, shall we? I always come on, I'm going to give a great introduction. I'm going to say everything I need to say very, very clearly and succinctly. It never happens. All just comes out. I'm much better at writing stuff than I am actually saying things. But yeah, all right, come onto your back. So it's going to be very helpful today today, if you can bring the soles of the feet together, let the knees fall out sideways. Resting the hands on the belly and the thighs, either side of the body, palms up. So this is a posture called reclined bound angle or supta baddha konasana. In other styles of yoga, they call it reclined butterfly, whatever you want to call it, it's fine. But if you're able to do this, you're going to feel a really kind of lovely opening in the hips, the groin, across the pelvis. So it's a passive hip opener. A very good place to start with, seeing as Lotus demands that big external rotation of the hips. And external rotation is just sort of the hips opening outwards. So the knees come out to the side usually. And an internal rotation is when the knees come in, you're squeezing the thighs together, you're rolling the hips inwards. So it's this external rotation we're after today. Now if this isn't comfortable, you can just straighten the legs, let the feet fall out sideways. We're not forcing the outside edges of the feet down, they're just falling as far as they want to fall, and you're still bringing in that hip opening element to the shape. And if that really isn't comfortable, just bend your knees. So you've got a lot of options here, but if possible, soles of the feet together, knees out sideways, resting the hands wherever you want to rest them. Maybe closing the eyes if that feels comfortable, and just taking a few moments to bring the attention onto the mat, into the room, or into the garden if you're in a garden. The weather's perfect for it, isn't it? Ooh. Okay, so just trying to tune out any distractions, seeing if for this 1 hour you can focus on the sensations in your body, focus on your breath. And then starting to slow the breath down, so making the inhales and exhales equal in length, breathing through the nose if possible. So we want to find a rhythm that's slower than usual, but also something that's sustainable. So at no point do you want to feel like you're running out of breath. It should feel comfortable, and everyone breathes at different rates. And as much as possible, we'll keep this slow, steady rhythm going throughout the class. And then just taking your attention around the body before we begin. So noticing that opening, that sensation, if the soles of the feet are together, at the top of your legs, so the hip area. How do your knees feel in this position? So if you're already experiencing some knee pain, it's an indication that perhaps Lotus is best left for today. You can still do the class, but when we come to the Lotus positions, you're going to have to be super mindful. So if this is playing up with your knees already, just being very conscious. Okay, fabulous, and then we'll begin. So on your inhale, just slowly bring your knees together if they're apart. And then everyone can just hug knees into the chest, rock from side to side, make some circles. So for the purpose of this class, maybe making separate circles with the knees. So taking hold of the knees, guiding them in different directions, and this is going to start to work into the hip joint, opening up into that area in a very kind of passive, supportive way. And it's a really good little movement for your lower back as well. So we're rocking any tension out that may have built up in that area. Just keep the back of the head on the floor. You can go in separate directions. It looks a bit strange, this one. And then bring both feet to the floor. So we're going to start with a very kind of passive hip opener. It's one I come back to time and time again. So we're going to leave the left knee bent. We're going to cross the right foot over the left thigh. Pick your left foot up off the mat. And then take the hands around the back of the left thigh. Now, if you can't comfortably take the hands around the back of the left thigh, you're going to want to use a yoga strap instead or something similar. Resistance band, belt, dressing gown cord, whatever you have to hand. So we want the back of the head to stay down at all times. We want the shoulders to be relaxed, chest to be broad. And while there's a little bit of effort in the arms to move the left thigh back, they shouldn't feel overly tense. So you don't want to be pulling your arms out the sockets. And if you feel very constricted in the upper body, that's when you want to use a strap instead. Okay, so gently working both toes back. So feet are active, and we also want to keep the base of the spine down, so we don't want to roll up. If we do that, we're going to lose the isolated stretch in the right hip, also feeling that big stretch in the right glute. And then keeping the chin tucked in towards the chest so the neck is long, and we're just going to hold it here. Such a good posture, very simple, very effective. Why mess with a good thing? Breath steady, inhales and exhales the nose. And then the angle of your right shin tells you a lot about the hip. So if the hip is a little bit tight, the right knee is going to be a lot closer towards the face and the right foot's going to be further away. But as we open up into the hip, you can find the rotation a little bit easier, which means the right knee can draw down the mat, the shin becomes a little bit more parallel. Now if the right knee is okay, you can exaggerate that movement. You can either press your right elbow on the inner right thigh to move the right leg down the mat, or you can just subtly draw the right knee down the mat as you ease the left thigh back. It's going to make it a little bit deeper, just an option, few more moments here. And then exhale, release, fabulous. Uncross your legs, give your bent knees a shake, and we'll do exactly the same thing the other side. So crossing the left foot over the right thigh picks up, hands or strap around the back of the right thigh, and then remembering all your action points. So back of the head down, base of the spine down, shoulders relaxed, and feet active. So you're going to probably notice so one side's usually a bit tighter, especially when it comes to the hips. Now in Ashtanga, the style of yoga I practice and teach, we only ever come into Lotus one way, with the right foot crossed first and the left foot afterwards. In other styles of yoga, you're probably going to change sides. I mean, there is a disadvantage to only doing Lotus one way, like I practice it, is that the left hip can get a little bit tight. We tend to be right side dominant, especially within Ashtanga. You may be different, but just something to notice. Breath steady. And then you have the same option of maybe pressing the left elbow in a left thigh to draw the left knee down the mat as you ease the right thigh back. Or maybe just drawing the left knee down the mat if the elbow hasn't made contact. Just be mindful of the knees. Okay, a few more moments here. And then exhale, release, fabulous. Uncross the legs, and we'll take a cat stretch. So now we're going to point the toes down the mat, arms overhead, lengthen. Just make yourself as long as you possibly can. So full body stretch from the fingers all the way to the toes. You may feel a little lift in your lower back as you lengthen. And then exhale, hug knees into chest, rock from side to side and make some circles. Again, might be beneficial, especially if you've got super tight hips, to make separate circles with the knees. And then whenever you're ready, you're just going to pop yourself up into seated. Okay, so here we go. Sitting in a comfortable cross-legged position. You'll hear yoga teachers say this all the time. Make your way into a comfortable cross-legged position. This isn't always comfortable, okay? So if the hips are tight and you struggle to sit cross-legged, you're definitely probably aren't going to be able to do Lotus today. It is an indication that the hips aren't ready. If you are sitting on the floor in a cross-legged position and the knees are high and you're sort of sagging in the lower back and it's all very constricted, just find a block. You're just going to sit on a block today, or a pillow. Lift your butt up a little bit higher, and that's going to make the hips feel a little bit easier in this position. If you're fine, no worries, cross-legged. From this position, I imagine your right shin is on top of the left shin, okay? So the right leg's on top, the left leg's underneath. Just sit up nice and tall to begin with. Place your hands on your knees and see how you get on here. I know I mean, I don't want people to think sitting on the floor cross-legged is easy, because honestly, for a lot of people, it isn't. Not until the hips open up. So you're actually more than welcome to stay here. Now, if you're just going to stay seated, I want you to think about lengthening up through the spine, lifting in the core, shoulders roll back, drop down, and the chin tucks in. Okay, so it's quite an active position. Now, if you're comfortable in this cross-leg position, we're going to see if we can fold forward. So on your inhale, you lift the arms up, and then as you exhale, you're just going to propel the chest forward, lead with the chest, hands come onto the floor, and then the forehead drops down. So you're laying the weight of the body over the legs, opening up a little bit deeper into the hips. If you're not folding all the way, again, not a problem, just walk the hands in, drop the head. Be happy wherever you are. But if you are folding and you're managing to come down quite a lot, just make sure that the sit bones stay connected to the floor. So there's a little bit of a tendency for the butt cheeks to lift in this posture, but see if you can keep the bum drawing down. Few more breaths here. And then inhale back up to center. You can walk the hands or you can just lift them up. And we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to cross the left leg on top of the right, or cross the legs the other way if you started with the left leg on top. So if you're right-handed, if you're right side dominant, crossing the left shin on top of the right, you'll feel a little bit strange. Feels a little bit weird. But for the purpose of balancing things out, we're going to be doing it today. And again, you can sit up nice and tall and stay here in this lovely active seat, or you can inhale, lift the arms up, and exhale, propel the chest forward, lead with the chest as you come down. Hands to floor, drop the head, weight of the body sinks over the legs. And just noticing if one side feels a little bit different, noticing where the resistance comes from in this posture, whether it's hips, lower back, whether your knees feel safe in this posture. And then inhale, pop yourself back up. Wonderful, uncross your legs. So I would say, in my experience, such a weird mood today, I'd say in my experience, sitting cross-legged is step number one on the journey to Lotus. If you can't sit comfortably in cross-leg, then it just means you've got a little bit of a way to go. It's not a problem, we all have to start somewhere, but sitting comfortably in cross-legged is step number one. So we're just going to come into a little twist and a little hip opener now while we're in seated. Again, there's quite a lot of instructions for this posture, but it's very simple at heart. So, bend your knees, have your feet on the floor, your feet are hip width apart. This is our starting position. From here, we're going to cross the left foot underneath the left leg, okay? So now the left heel comes to the outside edge of the right hip, and then we're trying to the left thigh down on the floor, the knee faces forward, and this in itself is a hip opener. Now from here, we're just going to draw the right heel back towards the left ankle, and this is the starting position, okay? We're going to take the right hand on the floor behind us, fingers face back, and we're going to use the right arm to keep the spine up nice and long. Now as you inhale, raise the left arm up, twist around towards the right, and see if you can hook the back of the left arm in front of the right knee, palm faces away. Then from here, you can press the arm into the right knee to open the chest up towards the right. And then you're just going to turn, you're going to look over that right shoulder. Now, if it's really tricky to get the left arm over the right knee, then just have a look at me. What you're going to do is hug the right thigh in towards the body instead. So they're your options. Whatever you are is perfect. You can feel that we're really kind of like leaning into that right hand as well, so it's very supported. Trying to keep the spine up nice and tall, breath steady. A really lovely twist actually, this one, as well as being a very handy hip opener. Okay, and then as you exhale, release, look forward, unravel, and we'll do exactly the same thing the other side. So starting off with the knees bent, feet parallel, And then from here, we're going to take the right foot underneath the left leg this time. So the right heel comes to the outer edge of the left hip. You're going to draw the left foot back so it's closer towards the right ankle, and the left hand's going to come on the floor behind you, fingers face back. Inhale, right arm up. See if you can twist around to the left. On the outer edge of the left knee, palm faces away, and then opening the chest up towards the left, and you're looking back over the left shoulder. Again, if it's not comfortable, if this is too deep, then you're just going to hug the left thigh in towards the belly. No problem. Just see if you can keep the right thigh on the floor, knee facing forward. And then breathe in deeply. So moving the breath up into the chest. The reason I say that, there is a reason, it's because look at the twist we're doing now. It's very difficult to breathe comfortably into the tummy, like full belly breaths, while being in such a deep twist. If you're working the core, it's very hard as well. If you're doing strong tummy contractions and you're trying to breathe into the tummy, it's kind of counterintuitive. And then exhale, forward, unravel, give your body a shake. Lovely, 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 all fours. Straight away, we're coming into all fours. So you might have noticed we are moving our way up. So usually in these classes we start gently, we work through a few passive postures, we work our way up in intensity, and then we get onto the hard stuff towards middle and end. So we're just waking the body up gently. Now this next posture we're going to do, the next couple of postures are very deep hip openers, so be careful of your knees. So from this all four position, we're going to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand, and we're going to scooch the left knee back. This is a slightly easier variation of a posture called lizard. So lizard, you tuck the back leg and you straighten the leg. But today we're going to keep that left knee down. Makes it a little bit more bearable. But while it's a passive posture, it's also quite intense. So to begin with, let's keep that right knee somewhere over the right ankle, toes face forward, and then it's the weight of the body that's creating the stretch. So gravity's doing the work, hips are sinking down, but see if you can keep the chest lifted. So a lot of people kind of hunch the shoulders forward in this and drop the head. That's okay if that's where you are, if that's what you need to do, but over time, let's see if we can gently squeeze the shoulders together, look forward, breath steady. And we've got a lot going on here. So there's a big opening up into the right hip. You may feel this in your groin, so it's quite a deep groin stretch here. And you may also, well, I for sure feel it, some people not so much, but feel a stretch in the top of the left leg. So we're stretching into the hip flexor, the psoas muscle, also the quad there. So got some big old stretches going on in this posture. And if the back knee feels sensitive, you can pad it out. And if the right knee feels sensitive, you can just stay here or come out of the posture and have a rest whenever you need to. Now we can make it a lot deeper. I'm going to give you a lot of options here, so you stop at any point, okay? You stop anywhere. The goal of this, the next sort of options we're doing, is to find stillness. If you find that you're fidgeting a lot in these postures, then it's an indication you're trying to move away from the sensation, which is an indication you're in pain. we don't want to feel pain. While these postures are going to feel sensational, we're definitely going to be feeling some intensity. We should never feel pain. And we should be able to lean into it, the sensation, rather than like be focused on pulling back from it and fidgeting. So finding a place you can be still in is a good start. So you can stay here. If the right knee's okay, you're going to turn the right toes out, inhale, then exhale, maybe let the right knee drop out to the side. If you let the right knee drop to the side, it means the inside of your right foot potentially will lift, and it increases that opening up into the right hip. Now this is an external rotation in the right hip. This is the movement we're after. It's the movement really that plays a big part, maybe the most important part in whether Lotus is going to happen or not. And then finding that position you can be still in. You have the option if this feels okay, to maybe bend the elbows, come down onto the forearms rather than staying on straight arms. This is just an option, all right? This is definitely not the goal of the purpose. I'm going to stay on straight arms today, but you can come down onto forearms if you want. Either way, holding it here for a few more moments, leaning into that sensation. Okay, fab, and then very slowly, if the knee's out, you're going to bring it forward, you're going to come back up onto straight arms if you're on elbows, and then you're just going to square the toes to face forward. Now from here we're going to come into a posture called pigeon, so listen carefully. We're just going to toe heel, so we're going to shuffle the right foot across towards the left side of the mat, and then we're going to see if we can lay the right shin on the floor. You definitely have to be mindful of that knee, so any discomfort in the right knee, come out. From here, you're just going to move the left leg back a little bit, and then you're in the posture called pigeon. You might know it as swan. What we're trying to feel is a big stretch in your right butt cheek. We're opening up into that right hip. Now, if you don't feel that, there is a strong likelihood that you are rolling over too much towards the right. So if you're struggling to feel the stretch, what you need to do is you need to draw your left hip down to the floor. Eventually we want the left hip bone down and we want the right butt cheek on the floor. So from front on, I haven't got a lot of room, but from front on, the leg is in, oh my God, can you see this position here, okay? Oh my God, I got cramp now. I knew that was gonna happen. Okay, so hanging out here. Again, your pigeon might look a bit more like this, so you might find it quite difficult to lay the right bum cheek down. That's all right. Just sort of play around with it. Find a position that you can be still in. And if you did want to relax the intensity, what you would do is you would draw your right heel closer in towards the left hip. For those who have more openness in the hips, feel free to shuffle the right foot forward and make the shin a bit more parallel, makes it a little bit deeper. Now you can stay on straight arms. You have the option to fold. You inhale and exhale, lay the weight of the body down into that right calf, cross the right shin, but just be mindful as you move. We don't want to feel any discomfort in the right knee. Then you're just going to hang out here. Being conscious that your hips are facing down. So if you put a little hand on your lower back, you should feel where the hips are. And if you're veering off to one side, you need to square it up a little bit, okay? So there's people come into this wonky all the time. It's just difficult to know what the hips are doing when you can't see it. A few more moments. It's a Marmite posture. People either love this one or hate it. Some people can fall asleep in it and other people need help getting out of it. Fab, and then just come back up onto straight arms if you folded, and we're just going to make our way back into all fours. So come back onto the left knee, drag that right leg out, maybe give it a bit of a shake, give your hips a shake, or do whatever little movements feel good at this point. And we're going to move over to the other side. So from here, you're going to step the left foot to the outside of the left hand, scooch in the right knee back, and we'll come back to this lizard variation first. So let's just hang out here with the left knee over the left ankle, toes face forward, and then scooching the right knee back as far as is comfortable. Again, you can make this posture slightly less intense by bringing the right knee forward a bit. Otherwise, just hanging out here, letting the weight of the body sink down, the chest lifts, you're breathing, and keeping in mind that one side might feel a lot different. So even if you moved quite far in the last side, you might not be able to move as far this side, you may move further. So don't expect the same results is what I'm trying to get at. Always treating every posture like it's the first time you've ever done it. For me, that's probably the most helpful advice I can give you. It's the most helpful advice that I've applied to my own practice as well. Just treat every time as a new time. It throws a lot of surprises at you, yoga. Alright, and then if you feel comfortable here, you have the option of turning the left toes out, about 45 degrees, inhale, then exhale, let the left knee fall out. Maybe the inside of the left foot will lift, maybe not. but we are working that external rotation now in the left hip. That movement we're going to need later on. Then finding the position you can be still in, that you can breathe in. And if you feel comfortable, and if you did want more of a stretch, feel free to bend the elbows, come down onto forearms if that's appropriate for you. And just remembering, it's not the point of the posture. Everyone feels the same intensity, whether you're on straight arms or forearms. Everyone's working to their kind of edge. Okay, wonderful. And then if you're on forearms or bent arms, you come up onto straight arms. You're going to bring the sole of the foot back down. If it's up, square the toes off to face the front of the mat. And then we're going to move into that pigeon posture. So just shuffling the left foot across the body towards the right side of the mat and seeing if you can lay the left shin on the floor. From here, seeing if you can draw the right hip down and square the hips up to face downwards. That's what creates the stretch. If you're doing it right, you should be feeling it in your left butt cheek area. Don't know what the scientific term for that is. The left butt cheek area is where you want to be feeling it. If you're feeling it in the knee, you need to come out the posture. To make the posture a little bit less intense, you can draw the left heel in towards the right hip, and to make it more intense, if the hips are up to it, you can move the shin so it's a bit more parallel. Either way, keep drawing the right hip down. Okay, wonderful. If you're happy here, you can fold if you want. You inhale and exhale, lay the weight of the body over that left shin. You can come forehead, I'm not. You can come forehead, you can, I don't know, put your chest on the mat if you're feeling a little bit zany. Or you can just come forearms, or you can stay straight arms, whatever's comfortable. A few more breaths here. And then back up onto straight arms, and we'll come out the posture, so coming onto the right knee, then just taking the left leg out from underneath you, back into all fours. Make whichever movements feel good at this point before coming into child's pose. So we're going to have the feet together, knees as wide as the mat. I'm going to sink the bum down towards the heels. Try and get the bum and the heels as close together first, and then maybe lay the body down. Again, you can stay on straight arms, forearms, maybe forehead, maybe chin and chest, as long as that doesn't start compressing uncomfortably in the back of the neck. And much like the posture we began with, this is a great passive stretch into the hips and the groin. Really good for your lower back as well. And then inhale, back up into all fours. So from here, we're going to come into downward dog. So fingers spread underneath your shoulders, your feet are hip width apart and parallel. You're going to tuck your toes, you're going to send your hips up and back, and you're just going to make your way into downward dog. We aren't doing anything with the hamstrings today. We don't need the hamstrings to be working for this lotus. But if they feel super tight, you can pedal one heel down towards the floor, then the other, just to wake the calves up, work into the hamstrings a little bit. It's going to feel quite nice. Just keep the head relaxed, so the head, no effort, just tilting back between the arms. And then make the pedaling slow, controlled. No gaps underneath the hands, so we're pressing down through the hands firmly so that we've got a good foundation there. Press forward with the hands to take the hips back. Okay, lovely. Then stop pedaling. And from here, we're going to make our way into a little yoga squat. Another really important preparation posture for Lotus. So on your inhale, you're either going to step or jump your feet to the outside of your hands, and you're going to sink the butt down And you're going to come down into your little squat. Malasana, little yoga squat. I don't know if that's the translation, but that's what I call it. So first things first, in this posture, if you cannot get the heels down, don't even worry about it. It's fine, it's not the end of the world. If you can't get the heels down, you're going to be up on the balls of your feet, your bum's going to be a little bit higher. You may want to take the hands to the floor and keep them there for balance, all right? So that's first things first. But if you can, you're going to sink the heels down towards the floor, take your hands into prayer. All depends on your hips. So toes can face outwards. Pressing the arms into the legs back into the arms to open up, across the groin, the hip area. And then seeing if we can extend through the crown of the head as well. So we don't really want the shoulders to be like that. It happens, it just happens to begin with. Over time, let's see if we can draw the shoulders back and down, keep the chest lifted, and keep that sort of downward motion through the feet. So this is a great posture for feet and knees as well, to work into those areas. So there's a sense of downward energy, but also upward energy, upper body lifts. Now that's the same in a lot of yoga postures. You're always kind of playing with that upward and downward thing. Alright, I'm going to hang out here just for a little while. This is a good position to stay in for a minute or so every day, I think. Medicine for the hips. If you do my classes regularly, you're going to know that this is one of my firm favourites. And you also know that I like to have a chat in it as well. Okay, so if it's all getting a little bit, always come out, otherwise deep breaths, lean into it, lean into that sensation. That opening up into the hips, really good for your lower back, this one too. Alright, a few more moments, doing good. Okay, then from here as you inhale, very slowly we're going to come up to standing. So just push into the feet, lift your bum up, and then give your legs a little shake. Wonderful, wonderful. So we've supercharged the hips now. Big hip openers, that easier variation of lizard, the pigeon, that little yoga squat. Everything we've done up until now has been to help us, you know, with these lotus postures. We're going to have a go at a standing lotus, we're going to have a go at a seated half lotus, we're going to have a go at a full lotus. But before we have a look at those things, I just want to highlight the movement, the lotus movement. So the first thing we're going to do is have a look at a standing lotus. Now, when I come to teach this, this happens a lot. And this is a cue that's given for half lotus a lot. Cross your foot over your thigh. So what happens? People just go like that, okay? And that's not in itself a big problem, but you're not using the hip. You're not using the full range of the hip to help you come into half lotus. If the hips are tight, this might be where you are today. You might only be able to take the foot quite low down the thigh, and the knee might be pointing forward a lot. So from side on it looks like this. It's a start, okay? If that's where you are, that's where you are. You just need to work into the hips a little bit more. Now the problem with doing this is I'm not getting any of that external rotation in the hip that we've been talking about. And then if I do anything from this position, like I try and fold forward, it's going to start to move into the knee. So I'm not using the rotation in the hip to help me. All that impact's going into the knee. The knee is a hinge joint, it's designed to do this, but there is movement in the knee. You can twist your knee and you can hurt it, especially in this posture. Now when we come into half lotus, instead of doing this, what we need to do is open the hip, bring the foot up, and then the knee comes forward and down. I kind of got a bit excited there. So it's this movement here. You open the hip, you bring the foot in and up, and to complete that circle, the knee comes forward and down. You see, there's a big sort of hip circle that goes into getting into a half lotus rather than that. So we're going to have a little look at the hip circle now. We want to help us as we want to use the mobility in the hip. That's what makes this posture. So for these hip circles, they look a little bit weird. They're quite intuitive. you're more than welcome to stand with your hand up against a wall, because it's not the balance as such that we're focused on, it's the movement in the hip. So you can have the left hand either to the left hip, or you can have left fingertips to the wall. From here, stand on your left leg and just draw your right knee up, okay? On the inhale. Just put a breath count in. So inhale, right knee comes up, take it out to the right, and then exhale, swoop that knee down and bring it forward, okay? Inhale up, out to the right, exhale down and forward. Try and work to the max range of motion. So inhale up, round, exhale down and forward. Just use your breath and take a couple of rotations here. It's this movement, okay, that's going to make the lotus work. This big upwards, out to the right, down and forwards. You may feel a little bit of crunching, a little bit of clicking. It's okay. It's all right, that happens. As long as there's no pain, you'll be fine. Okay? And again, just notice where the resistance is coming from, what part of the movement might be constricting you, feeling a little bit tighter. It's going to be helpful. All right, and then just lower the leg and give that leg a shake. You can do the same thing the other side. So standing on your right leg straight, right hand to hip or right fingertips to wall. You're going to inhale, raise the left knee up, out to the left, down, forward, up. Inhale up, out to the left, exhale down, forward, inhale up. Just keep doing this. So one thing also we want to try and do is get that leg quite relaxed. So we don't need to be like really strong in the leg. We're just trying to move around the hip. So you can go a little bit quicker. You can like go a little bit quicker if you want. You can take it slower. Just try and keep the leg pretty relaxed, pretty chill, and just get used to this big rotation in the hip. Cool. Okay? And then you can stop doing that and give your legs a shake. All right, so we're going to start with the standing half lotus. So just watch me very quickly. Again, you can take a hand to a wall if you want. We're just seeing if we can get the half lotus working first. So rather than just taking the foot across like this, use the hip. Up, back, take the foot comes up, knee comes, that circle. So what we want to do, really, is as we take the knee up and out, you take the foot, instead of taking the foot here, if possible, we draw the heel in towards the belly, and then it's the knee just naturally falls down and forward to complete the circle. So not doing anything there. And it looks like this, okay? So the knee eventually faces down, the foot is high up in towards the tummy, and there should be no discomfort in the knee if the hips are ready for the posture. Now if you are here, you're just going to stay there. Just be careful of the knee, maybe generous bend in the standing leg. So let's see if we can take the foot into half lotus. So standing on your right foot, left foot, standing on your left foot. Okay, then think about that big rotation we done with the hip. So bring the right knee up, take it out. From here, take hold of the right foot, bring the heel as high up in towards the belly as you can, while the right knee is quite far back, and then just very slowly let the knee drop down and forward to complete that hip circle. Okay, and see how this feels. Keep a hold of your right foot. You should be feeling something around the top of the right leg, that's the hip. All right, a few more breaths here. And then release. Okay, give your legs a shake. We're going to do exactly the same thing the other side, and we're going to really try and capitalise on that big hip circle we done. So we're not doing this. If possible, we're going to see if we can whoosh, make it a lot bigger. So stand on your right leg, right fingertips to wall or right hand to right hip. Inhale, bring your left knee up, out to the side, all right? Get as far back as you can before you take the left foot, left heel, high up in towards the belly. Then complete that circle, quite naturally let the right knee drop down and forward. So it's completed that big sort of hip movement we done. Hang out here, see how you go. So one side might be a bit tighter, this is my tighter side, but we should all be hopefully feeling some sensation top of the left leg. Okay, and then exhale, release. Fab. So there's lots of things we can do from that position. We can fold forward, we can bind and fold, but for today we're just seeing if we can focus on getting the leg into that half lotus. Right, I'm gonna have to move this a little bit. Oh no, moving the camera during a live class is never a good idea. So we're gonna see if we can do exactly the same thing from seated now. Seated half lotus. All right, it's harder to find that same hip circle from a seated position than it is the standing, which is why we started with the standing, so we could get that movement going and to kind of, for me to just hammer home that we need that movement if we're coming into lotus. So from the seated position, what we're going to do, so we're going to have the left leg straight, okay, just watch me for a second. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to see if we can take the right foot into half lotus. Happens all the time, this happens. Okay, so, and then like I said, if the hips are tight, it's not a big deal, but we're just trying to move past that eventually. So if you're there, that's perfect. And if the hips want to do that, we're not utilising the whole of the hip, we're not getting that same external rotation, and there's more chance that it's going to start to move in towards the knee. So rather than just do this, what we want to do, take hold of the foot, take hold of the knee, that same movement. Lift the knee up, round, get it back as far as possible, then draw the heel across the thigh, and the knee comes forward and down to complete that rotation. And then if you can see, my foot is very high up, and the heel, just like the standing position, is close up in towards the tummy. Now, something I should have mentioned, I'll mention it now, is you always want to make sure that the knee joint is closed, which means there's no gap between the calf and the thigh, okay? So not kind of like that. We want it, this part of the leg to be closed off, and that's going to help protect the knee as well. So let's give it a go. Left leg straight. Right foot into the hand. Support the right knee to begin with the right hand, and then we're going to move the knee back, right knee back, draw the right heel in towards the tummy, top of the left thigh, and then just very naturally let the right knee drop forward and down to complete that big hip circle. Okay, and then you're in a half lotus. So eventually the shin isn't parallel. it's much more complicated than just crossing the foot over the thigh. It's not a very good cue. So just sit here, see how you feel. Okay, you can always plop a block or something underneath the right knee if that's needed, that's okay. And there's more stuff we can do from here. We can wrap round, we can bind, we can fold, but for today, we're just gonna sit here and see how this is. Feel like we sat here now, we can change sides, great, so straighten the right leg. Let's do the same thing, the left side, so right leg straight, taking the left foot, think about that big movement of the hip we're trying to get. So holding onto the left foot with the right hand, supporting the left knee with the left hand, take the knee up, take the knee back, work into the hip, draw the left heel in towards the top of the right thigh, and then let the left knee drop down and forward to complete that half lotus movement. And then sit here, see how you feel. Well, making sure the knee gap is closed, so no gap between the thigh and the calf, and also there's no need to force that knee down. We never want to force the knee down, all right? No point. Half lotus, fab, release. So, well, that's not half lotus. This next one's half lotus. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to come into that movement, and a half lotus would then be to cross the other leg underneath the knee. This is really tricky, right? Although, you know, when someone else does it and you look at it, you think, yeah, that's fine. But to actually cross the foot underneath the knee, if the hips are tight, it's going to look like that. it's not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. Let's do it. So left leg straight. Let's start by taking the right foot into that half lotus position. So thinking about that big circle, you've got your right foot with the left hand, you're supporting the right knee with the right hand, you're going to take the knee up, back, as far as it will go, then draw the right heel up towards the tummy, top of the left thigh, and then just let the right knee fall as far as it wants to fall down and forward to complete the circle. Okay, staying here. If this is challenging enough, absolutely stay here. But if you want to give the half lotus a go, now you need to take your left foot underneath your right knee. So you can lean back a little bit. Left foot underneath the right knee. Place the right knee down, making sure that both knee joints are closed now. So the calves and the thighs are squeezing in towards one another, and just see how this feels. So this is a half lotus. We're going to try the same thing the other side. So you're just going to take the leg straight again, and we'll begin by taking the right leg straight. We'll take the left foot into that half lotus position. So remember, in that big circle, I know I keep banging on about it, but that's the key. So holding on to the left foot with the right hand, supporting the left knee with the left hand, and then taking the knee up, back as far as it will go, drawing the left heel in towards the tummy, top of the right thigh, and then completing that circle. Knee comes forward, down, and then hang out here. Now if you're going to stay here, absolutely fine. If you want to give the half lotus a go, what you do is you take the right foot underneath the left knee and see how that feels. So in Ashtanga we don't do it this way, we always lead with the right foot, but for the purpose of this class we'll try both sides. Well done. Fabulous. That's half lotus. So we're going to give lotus a go now. If any of those previous postures were not happening, then you need to stop there. You don't want to force lotus. There's no point in fucking your knees up for a posture. So if you're struggling with any of the previous variations, stay there, practice that. Or your alternative to half lotus or lotus is sitting cross-legged on the floor. I said right at the beginning that this in itself asks a lot of the hips, that this in itself needs preparation for. And I also said at the beginning that sometimes people anatomically are not designed for lotus, so this is a good option. There's no problem being here. Okay, so this is great. But to get into lotus, a good indication of whether or not your hips are ready is Baddha Konasana bound angle. Now we've done the lying version of this right at the beginning, now we're going to do the seated. So bring the soles of the feet together, draw the heels in towards the groin, and let the knees fall out sideways. Not pushing the knees down, we're just letting the knees be. If in this position your knees are high, you're leaning back, you feel that pinch right at the top of your legs, that sort of bone on bone pinch. If you're here, lotus is not going to be happening today. It doesn't matter. But in order for lotus to happen, really a good indication would be the knees are starting to come down, you're able to draw the heels in towards the groin, and you're able to sit up comfortably. Because from here, lotus is a very easy progression. It's kind of like a very kind of like simple progression from there. So if you're upright like this is a really good posture to stay with. So you might just want to work the hips from this position, or even come back to your little yoga squat. Both of those postures there are probably what I recommend being two of the best preps for lotus. So this one or this one. Okay, now if you're finding this relatively easy, let's give lotus a go. So stand, don't stand, sit with your legs out in front of you. We're going to repeat the process. So to begin with, left leg straight, we can take the right foot into half lotus. So we're going to take hold of the foot, with the hand support the knee, take the knee back as far as it will go, draw the right heel in towards the belly, cross the top of the left thigh, complete that circle, right knee comes whoosh down and forward. So all the same, it's the same steps, but instead of taking the left foot underneath the right knee like we did in half lotus, what we need to do is take the left foot on top of the right leg instead, okay? Just making sure that you move quite slowly through this if you're going to give it a go. So either coming into half lotus, working some prep, doing whatever you're doing at this point. We're near the end, but if you're going to give lotus a go, what you need to do now is you need to pick your left foot up. You might want to lean back, pick it up, and then place it on top of the right leg. And this is lotus. You don't want to feel any discomfort in your knees at all. And that is the hips, you know. Something that people sometimes do is they keep the feet a little bit active. So for me, I gently draw my toes back, and I find that can help. You know, if I feel a bit discomfort in the knees, sometimes I feel like making the feet a little bit stronger can help. And then, yeah, this is it. So just seeing how you get on here. And if you're in this posture, yeah, sitting in this for an hour or something to meditate is a big ask. It's a very strange movement from the hips. There's a lot going on. There's an external rotation. There is, you know, a bit of an inward roll for a lot of people. And yeah, this is lotus. And then from here you would place your pointy finger and your thumb in a circle. The other 3 fingers are straight, and you place the back of the wrists on the knees, and you just hang out here until you find enlightenment. All right, release that. We'll have a go the other side. This isn't something I would ever teach. I will always teach it in Ashleigh. We always teach it with the right foot first and the left foot on top. But we'll have a go the other side for today. So we'll have the right leg straight. We'll bring the left foot to hand, left knee to hand, and then we're going to move the left knee back. Bring the left heel up in towards the belly across the right thigh, and then completing that circle, the right knee comes forward and down. All right, and then if you wanted to give it a go, you'll be taking your right foot on top of your left leg. And then you're coming into lotus with the left foot on top. And then you have your pointy finger, your thumb, other 3 fingers straight, back of the wrists on the knees, and you're sitting up nice and tall. So it feels weird for me this side, because we don't practice it this side in the style of yoga that I do. But it's good to give it a go, you know. All right, and that's lotus. Again, we don't want any discomfort in the knees, maybe keeping the feet active. To help keep the knee joint a bit sturdier, making sure there's no gap between the calf and the thigh, so the legs are closed. And then release. All right, lovely. Give your legs a shake. So there's lots of stuff you can do. The half lotus, the sort of, well, this is half lotus, and also this is half lotus. So either one of those, the little yoga squat, this position here if you want to start working into the hips. Lotus itself, there's billions of things we can do from lotus. We can lift up, we can bind, headstands, shoulder stands in lotus. There's Urdhva Padmasana in Ashtanga, which is a shoulder stand lotus. So once we work lotus, if it works for us, then yeah, we can do a lot more with it. And if it doesn't work for us, then we can do all the same things, just with a slight modification, which is usually cross-legged. That's it. Come down onto your backs. Okay, so just making your way into a comfortable lying position now, because we've had a look at it. Lots of techniques there for you to have a play with at home. So now Shavasana, so just lying flat on the mat, flat on the back, legs straight, knees bent, whatever feels good. Taking a moment to let the breath settle, taking a moment to just let the body relax as well. So while we haven't done a lot of like jumping around, we've done a lot of tricky movements today, and the hips get tight. The hips can be a very frustrating area of the body to work with. So if you're tight, that's okay, it doesn't matter. It's always weird teaching postures like lotus, because I have to disclaim it at the beginning that it may, just because of the way people's bodies are, it may not be something that ever is in your practice because it feels uncomfortable. So while it's important to go through, I really do want to highlight that it's not the be all and end all. There are millions of other ways to sit, to meditate. There are lots of other things you can do instead. I've known people who've practiced yoga for several years who still struggle with Lotus, and then I know people that have never practiced yoga who can sit comfortably in Lotus. Like, that's the kind of posture it is. So just kind of like letting that sit with you. And you can stay in Shavasana for as long as you like. I'm going to sort of call it a day for this video, but you stay here for as long as you like. Take as long as you need. And whenever you're ready, you can take a cat stretch, hug the knees in and make your way out. So thank you for joining me. This is a good one to come back to. Remember that big old hip rotation when you're coming into Lotus, especially if you're in a fast-paced class. It can sometimes get lost, but remember, whoosh, it's that movement here, the knee back, completing the circle forward and down, all the movement eventually coming from the hips rather than putting unnecessary strain on the knees. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and I'll see you sometime during the week.